Hamas releases 2 Israeli women for humanitarian and health reasons. And at least 17 killed in trains collision. And you're watching World Today, I'm Brendan Lepore. The armed wing of the Palestinian Hamas group on Monday said it had released 2 Israeli women on health grounds, as sources said the United States had advised Israel to hold off on a ground assault in the Gaza Strip. Egypt's Al Qahira news stations showed footage of 2 captives whose identities were confirmed as Nurit Cooper and Yushevet Lifshitz being transferred to ambulances at Rafah crossing from Gaza to Egypt. Abu Ubaidah, spokesman for the armed wing, said the group decided to release them on humanitarian and per-health grounds. The International Committee of the Red Cross said it had also helped with the case and the transportation of the women out of Gaza. They were freed following the release of an American woman and her daughter Judith and Natalie Raynon on Friday, with Hamas also citing humanitarian reasons and efforts by Qatar and Egypt. All 4 were among more than 200 people Hamas gunmen took hostage on 7 October. United Nations World Food Programme WFP spokesperson Ali Zaki said the agency has more than 40 trucks waiting by the border between Egypt and Gaza and are prepared for any time that they are allowed to enter again. WFP distributed canned fish and other food supplies in the besieged Gaza on Monday as a third convoy of 8 trucks entered the Rafah crossing. Humanitarian deliveries through Rafah began on Saturday after wrangling over procedures for inspecting the aid and bombardments on the Gaza side of the border had left relief materials stranded in Egypt. Rafah is the main crossing in and out of Gaza that does not border Israel. Since Israel has imposed a total siege of the enclave in retaliation for an attack by Hamas on 7 October, Rafah has become the focus of efforts to deliver aid. UN officials say about 100 trucks would be needed daily to meet essential needs in Gaza, which is home to 2.3 million people and where stocks of food, water and fuel have been running low, threatening their livelihood.
Humanitarian aid, humanitarian work, humanitarian workers should be able to carry out their job to make sure that they can reach the people in need. That's, of course, not to mention how essential it is that civilians must be protected and the essential infrastructure, so their hospitals, the bakeries, these all must be protected.
The United States' reinforcement of its military presence in the West Asia risks an escalation of war between Israel and Hamas. According to Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, the U.S. deployment of warships to the region was a proactive measure which possessed a greater risk and the danger of an escalation of the conflict. He also said the United States was already among the countries intervening the most since the conflict broke out. However, Lavrov acknowledged that efforts by Washington as well as the European Union were necessary in order to secure a diplomatic resolution of the latest fighting. Lavrov was in Tehran for talks with regional counterparts over the conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan, which launched a lightning offensive against Armenian separatists in the Nagorno-Karabakh region last month. Lavrov said participants had also discussed the Israel-Palestinian conflict on which they had very similar positions. He added that Russia does not accept any manifestation of terrorism, any manifestation of violence in violation of the international humanitarian law, including the indiscriminate use of force. Iran and Russia on Monday denounced European and US interference in tensions between Armenia and Azerbaijan at a meeting in Tehran aimed at finding a solution without the West. Armenia and Azerbaijan joined the talks in the Iranian capital, seeking to ease the tensions, which soared with Baku's lightning offensive to retake the long-disputed Nagorno-Karabakh region. At the meeting, which also included foreign ministers from Turkey, Russia and Iran, the envoys noted a push for peace in the Caucasus. Iran's President Ebrahim Raisi said the problems of the region cannot be resolved by the intervention of foreign forces. At the end of the talks, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov denounced attempts by, first and foremost, the EU and, to a certain extent, the United States, to interfere in the process of delimiting the border between Armenia and Azerbaijan. In a joint final declaration, the participants reiterated the importance of peaceful settlement of disputes, respect for sovereignty, political independence, territorial integrity, and non-interference in internal affairs. Meanwhile, Azerbaijan's defense ministry said on Monday it had begun joint drills with its ally Turkey near the border with Armenia, weeks after Baku recaptured Nagorno-Karabakh from Armenian separatists. Azerbaijan last month took control of the long-disputed region in a 24-hour offensive that ended decades of Armenian separatist rule. The ministry said, quote, up to 3,000 troops would take part in the tactical drills held in the capital Baku, the Nakhchivan exclave between Iran and Armenia, as well as territories retaken from Armenian separatists. The exercises, dubbed Mustafa Kemal Ataturk 2023, involved dozens of artillery weapons and aviation. Baku said they were aimed at ensuring combat interoperability between the allies. Azerbaijan's Armenian-populated enclave of Karabakh was at the center of two wars between the Caucasus' arch-foe neighbors in 2020 and in 1990s. Almost all of Nagorno-Karabakh's ethnic Armenian population, some 100,000 people, fled for Armenia after the offensive, sparking a refugee crisis. The drills are likely to be closely watched by Western countries, which have criticized Azerbaijan's offensive. 38 people were sentenced to death in Algeria on Monday over the lynching of a man who was accused of arson while trying to fight deadly wildfires. Now, the death sentences will be commuted to life in prison as the North African country has maintained a moratorium on capital punishment since the last executions in 1993. The case relates to events dating back to the summer of 2021 when 38-year-old painter Jamil bin Ismail was killed in the northeastern Kabylie region, setting up a wave of revulsion across the country. Out of the 94 defendants whose cases were heard by the Algiers Court of Appeal, 27 were acquitted, and the remaining 29 who were not sentenced to death received jail terms ranging from 3 to 20 years. Ben Ismail had turned himself into police after hearing he was suspected of arson at the height of blazes which killed at least 90 people nationwide. Videos posted online showed a crowd surrounding a police van and beating a man inside it, then dragging him out and setting him on fire, with some taking selfies next to his body. After the gruesome images went viral, the people who took the selfies tried to cover their tracks. But internet users across the country compiled videos and took screenshots to ensure the crime did not go unpunished. A quick break, and when we come back, 16, including 11 police officers killed in an assault. Stay tuned.
Beli! Betul! Shopee ada penghantaran percuma! Kenapa bayar? Kalau dapat penghantaran percuma di Shopee. Beli sekarang di Shopee.
You're watching World Today. At least 17 people have been killed and more than 100 others wounded after two trains collided in northeastern Bangladesh on Monday. The crash in the city of Bairab saw a cargo train smash into a passenger train from the rear, derailing two passenger carriages. Local police chief Russell Sheikh told media that at least 17 bodies have been recovered from the scene, rising the death toll from 13 initially reported. Local police chief Russell Sheikh confirmed the death toll and said more than 50 wounded people were sent to different hospitals. Rahman said the death toll was expected to rise, with rescuers reporting they could see bodies crushed and trapped under overturned coaches. It was not immediately clear how many people were trapped. The collision happened at 3:30 p.m. local time when the cargo train heading to Chattogram struck the rear two cars of the Dhaka-bound Egaroshindo-Goduli Express passenger train. However, it was not immediately clear what caused the crash. Officials said railway services were suspended throughout the region following the accident. An armed attack left at least 11 police officers dead on Monday in a region of Mexico, plagued by violence related to drug trafficking. State Prosecutor Alejandro Hernandez said unidentified attackers targeted a security patrol in the municipality of Coyuca de Benitez in the southern part of Guerrero. He said preliminary information revealed that 11 members of the municipal police were attacked and lost their lives, adding that the motive for the massacre was being investigated. A senior state security official was traveling in the convoy when it was attacked. Mexico is plagued by cartel-related bloodshed that has seen more than 420,000 people murdered since the government deployed the military in the war on drugs in 2006. Guerrero is one of the most violent areas in Mexico due to confrontations between rival drug traffickers and security forces. A shooter opened fire in a school in Sao Paulo, Brazil on Monday, killing one student and leaving 3 others wounded. Authorities said the shooter, a teenage boy who attended the school in the eastern Sapopemba neighborhood, opened fire at point-blank range, killing a 15-year-old girl. The Sao Paulo state government said in a statement that 2 other students were shot and wounded, while a third was injured while fleeing the attack. The statement read that police have arrested the shooter, but no details were given on the condition of the wounded victims, who were being treated at a local hospital. Brazil has seen an increase in school attacks recently, and earlier this month, a former student stabbed 4 teenagers, killing one as they left school in the southeastern city of Poços de Caldas. In April, President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva's administration announced a series of measures to increase security at schools and tackle content seen as promoting school violence on social media. Suspected paramilitary militia members torched 35 buses in Rio de Janeiro on Monday after one of their leaders was killed in a police operation, paralyzing parts of the Brazil city. The chaotic scenes erupted on the city's west side after an operation that Rio State Governor Claudio Castro said killed the nephew and right-hand man of a militia boss known as Zinho, the group's alleged leader in the region. In a post on X social media, Rio Mayor Eduardo Paes called the militia members idiots as well as criminals. City Hall declared a level 3 alert on its 5-level scale over the unrest in a popular tourist destination, warning residents of high-impact incidents. Public Bus Operators Association, Rio Onibus, said 35 buses had been set on fire, including 5 used on the special rapid transit lines launched for the Rio Olympics in 2016. Public transport was partly suspended on the city's west side. Police operations against heavily armed criminal gangs are common in Rio, where poor favela neighborhoods are often caught in the crossfire. Paramilitary militia groups control more than half the city's territory, installing a reign of terror in poor neighborhoods that are home to more than 2 million people. Militia members are often former police officers, where they initially formed as neighborhood watch groups to protect residents from drug gangs in the city. The militias, however, soon evolved into organized crime groups themselves, controlling sectors including internet service, cable TV, transportation, and construction. They have also been involved in running turf wars with drug gangs on the city's west side. Security in Haiti, where violent gangs control large swathes of the country, has collapsed even further, with the number of major crimes hitting record highs. A report on Haiti from the UN Secretary-General published Monday cited an increase in the number of indiscriminate killings, kidnappings, rapes and attacks on several urban neighborhoods considered relatively safe until recently.
The layer of complexity added to the security crisis by the vigilante groups remains. Between 24 April and 30 September, BINU registered the lynching of at least 395 alleged gang members across all 10 departments of Haiti by the so-called Bois Calais Vigilante movement.
Between the 1st of July and 30th September, the National Haitian Police reported 1,239 homicides, compared with 577 during the same period in 2022. And between July and September, 701 people were kidnapped, 244% more than during the same period in 2022. The United Nations is also concerned about killings perpetrated by vigilante groups that emerged last spring, with 388 alleged gang members lynched from 24th April to 30th September. More than 900 migrants have reached Spain's Canary Islands in several boats over the past 24 hours after crossing from West Africa. Their arrival came as European Union leaders met in Granada in southern Spain with the thorny issue of migration in focus due to the recent surge in arrivals on the Italian island of Lampedusa. 5 boats carrying a total of 526 people arrived at El Hierro, the smallest and most westerly of the Canary Islands. Another 2 boats arrived in the Tenerife and 3 on Gran Canaria, bringing the total to 908 people, among them women and children. Late on Friday, a rescue service spokesman said 2 other boats with around 150 people on board were on their way to El Hierro. The Canaries have experienced a surge in migrant arrivals in recent days as smugglers take advantage of calm weather to try to ferry people to the archipelago. At their nearest point, the islands are 100 kilometers from Morocco. A boat carrying 280 migrants landed on El Hierro on Tuesday, the largest number to arrive in the archipelago in a single vessel. Over 1,200 migrants have arrived over the past week on the tiny island, which is home to 11,000 people, overwhelming its social services. Juan Miguel Padron, the mayor of El Pinar, near the port, which has received the migrant boats, told Spanish public television all the nurses and doctors in the town had been pulled away to deal with the situation. Spanish authorities transferred some 500 migrants from El Hierro to Tenerife overnight on Thursday. The Canaries saw 14,976 migrants arrive between the 1st of January and the 30th of September, an increase of 19.8% compared to the same period in 2022. An extreme drought in parts of the Amazon has led to a dramatic drop in river water levels, exposing dozens of usually submerged rock formations with carvings of human forms that may date back some 2,000 years. The rock carvings are not usually visible because they are covered by the waters of the Negro River, whose flow recorded its lowest level in 121 years last week. The surfacing of the engravings on the riverbank have delighted scientists and the general public alike, but also raised unsettling questions.
Infelizmente, a gente está tratando da pior estiagem, do Amazonas nesses últimos 121 anos. No ano de 2010, a estiagem revelou as gravuras desse sítio em especial, ainda que ele já fosse registrado e cadastrado, e agora ela volta a aparecer, e com o agravamento, o afloramento dessas gravuras, elas foram ainda mais identificadas.
According to experts, the dry season has worsened this year due to El Niño, an irregular climate pattern over the Pacific Ocean that disrupts normal weather, adding to the effect of climate change. And in sports, Saudi Arabia to organize Esports World Cup next year. Stay tuned. Saudi Arabia on Monday announced that it would organize an esports World Cup starting next year. The latest boost to a sector Riyadh hopes will create tens of thousands of local jobs. Now, with a statement, Prince Mohammed bin Salman said the esports World Cup is the natural next step in Saudi Arabia's journey to become the premier global hub for gaming and esports. Prince Mohammed is said to be an avid gamer, partial to Call of Duty, and Saudi Arabia has invested heavily in the sector since the 38-year-old became first in line to the throne 6 years ago. Last year, the Crown Prince announced a $38 billion investment strategy for the kingdom's savvy games group, owned by the deep-pocketed Sovereign Wealth Fund. The goal is to create 39,000 esports-related jobs by 2030.
You can look at Gamers 8 as a dry run for the Esports World Cup. It was fantastic competition. It gave a lot of learnings to the different teams involved. It really stood the test of Riyadh being a competition hub of the world, traveling and transcending around the city. But Gamers 8 will be discontinued, and the Esports World Cup will take that rightful place as the next evolution and the next step in making this one of the largest sports in the world.
The first edition of the Esports World Cup is expected next summer, taking the place of the 8-week Gamers 8 Festival of Esports tournaments, which this year featured a prize pool totaling $45 million. And in football, Manchester United manager Erik ten Hag has called on the Red Devils to use the emotions that they are feeling after the death of Sir Bobby Charlton in the right way as they prepare to face FC Copenhagen at Old Trafford in Group A of the Champions League tomorrow. Charlton, who was a key figure in England's 1966 World Cup winning team, died at the age of 86 on Saturday. He helped United win the European Cup in 1968 and 3 English league titles as well as the FA Cup.
Bobby was a legend, a giant, not only for Manchester United, but for in mondial football. And so his legacy was, so what he left were the standards, the high standards we have to live here every day. We are professionals, and it's our job. But you can't ban emotions, but use the emotions in the right way.
United are bottom of Group A in the Champions League with 2 defeats from 2 games so far. Meanwhile, Arsenal prepared at their London Coney training ground for their Group B Champions League clash against Sevilla in Spain. Mikel Arteta's side will be looking to bounce back from their 2-1 defeat at Lens earlier this month. Their only defeat in all competitions this season, which has left the London side in second place in Group B, a point behind Lens and 1 ahead of Sevilla, who have drawn both of their matches so far. Arsenal recovered from a 2-0 deficit to draw 2-2 at Chelsea in the Premier League last Saturday to stand in second place on goal difference behind leaders Manchester City. Arteta has no major injury concerns for the match against Sevilla. In motorsports, Lando Norris, who took yet another second place at the US Grand Prix on Sunday, feared his resurgent McLaren team may now have missed their best chance of a win this season. The 23-year-old Briton has finished runner-up 5 times this year and 6 times in a Formula One career that remains without a victory.
I think to have an expectation to beat a Red Bull was not realistic. I maybe expected to race against Mercedes a little bit more, but their pace was way too strong. You know, Lewis was probably the quickest car out there today by quite a chunk. So I think it was a bit tough or optimistic to say we could have beaten them. The pace was just too good. So I'm very happy. Yeah, tough long race. I fought as hard as I could, but just missing that little bit that we need to challenge them to the end.
Sunday's latest second came when stewards disqualified Mercedes 7 times world champion Lewis Hamilton from that position long after the podium celebrations at Austin Circuit of the Americas. Norris is close to ousting now retired German Nick Heidfeld for the record of most podium appearances without a win. The Briton is now on 12th, with Heidfeld taking 13 before he departed in 2011. 8 of the Germans' podiums were second places. Moving on to tennis, Alexander Zverev hit 50 tour-level wins for 2023 in style on Monday at the Erste Bank Open, where the fifth-seeded German beat home wildcard Sebastian Ofner 6-4, 6-1 at the ATP 500 in Vienna. Zverev did not face a break point and converted 4 of 7 break points he earned to improve to 8-1 in Vienna, where he lifted the trophy in 2021. After an eventful start, the German won 10 of the final 12 games to claim a 78-minute triumph for a 3-love lead in his Lexus ATP head-to-head series against Ofner. Zverev was pleased with the way he had handled taking on a home favourite in his opening match in Austria. Now 50-24 for the season, Zverev will take on Cameron Norrie in the second round as he looks to add another Vienna crown to the Hamburg and Chengdu titles he has already won this season. The 26-year-old Zverev remains 7 in the Pepperstone ATP Live race to Turin as he chases a Nitto ATP Finals qualification spot.
minit tanpa henti.
76 minutes non-stop. Transparent and concise.
Paparan komprehensif, ringkas dan padat. Saksikan Kanta 744 7:44 malam. Berita perdana 8 malam.
Malaysia tonight, 8:30 p.m.
Saya ucap terima kasih kerana rakyat Malaysia, umat Islam utamanya dan juga rakan-rakan dari pelbagai kaum telah bangkit menyatakan pandangan mereka dalam beberapa siri himpunan di sekitar wilayah dan juga beberapa negeri. Ini suatu perkembangan yang sangat baik kerana ini suatu suara kebangkitan rakyat Malaysia yang menolak kezaliman dan mempertahankan hak rakyat Palestin. Oleh kerana saya juga sempat berkunjung ke dunia Arab khususnya dan Turki dan dapat pandangan langsung dari pemimpin negara yang terlibat dalam usaha meleraikan kes ini. Saya juga berasa bertanggungjawab untuk memberi penjelasan langsung kepada rakyat. Dan insya-Allah hari Selasa malam kita akan berhimpun di Axiata. Saya akan rumuskan dengan memberikan penerangan mutakhir tentang perkembangan yang berlaku dan pendirian kerajaan Malaysia.
And with that, we end our bulletin this afternoon with a reminder of our top story. Hamas releases 2 Israeli women for humanitarian and health reasons. Do join us again tonight at 8:30 p.m. for more on TV1 and saluran Berita RTM. Now, Malaysia, let's come together to show our support to Palestine at the Himpunan Malaysia Bersama Palestin, which will be held today at 6:30 p.m. at the Bukit Jalil Axiata Arena. Till then, I'm Brendan Paul, Melissa Badani, tekap perpaduan penuhi harapan. Thank you.